Hello, boys and girls. Today we are starting our next chapter book, and it is called The Adventures of Ali Baba Berenstain. And this will take you from today, April 22nd, all the way through the end of April 30th. So you will need this packet for a couple of weeks. I have all the work in there. All right, this is what the book looks like. So go ahead and open it up to the first page. The first page, this part up here is going to be about synonyms. So let's go through this together. Synonyms are words with similar meanings. Draw a line from each word in column A to its synonym in column B. Then use the words from column A, right here, to fill in the blanks in the sentences below. All right, so frequently. If you do something frequently, you would do it often. So frequently would go to often. Students, another word for students, we had this in one of our other books, is pupils. Here we have entire. So if it is the entire class doing it, it is the whole class doing it. And if you chose something, you selected it. And delighted is our last word. If you're delighted with something, you are thrilled with it. All right. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on your own. Use these words up here in the blanks. And it says, pick 2 and answer on the back. So on the back of your paper, you have lined paper. Mine looks different. Yours should be right here on this, but mine is here because mine is the original. So you need to pick 2 questions. I'll go through them with you. Why did David choose the New York telephone directory for his next book report? Why did he change his mind? All right, so you would start this first one off as David chose the New York telephone directory for his next book report because, and then this is a 2-part answer. Why did he change his mind? So that one you would start with, he changed, put a D at the end of it, he changed his mind because, all right, number 2. Why did David decide to change his name? So that one is going to start with David. David decided, put the ED at the end of it. David decided to change his name because, and you would put the answer. Why was David happy with his next book selection? Why was David happy with his next book selection? So once again, starting with David, and then you're going to put was. David was happy with his next book selection because. How did David's parents react to his name change? So how did they feel about it? David's parents reacted to his name change by, all right, so put any 2 questions you want, answer them on the back, and do this top section. Get out your book, and we will start, well, I will start reading it to you. See, as you can see, there are 7 chapters, so it'll take us 7 school days. How Ali Baba got his name. David Berenstein was 8 years, 5 months, and 17 days old when he chose his new name. There were already 4 Davids in David Berenstein's 3rd grade class. Every time his teacher, Mrs. Buchsbaum, we can call her Mrs. B, called David, all 4 boys answered. David didn't like that one bit. He wished he had an exciting name, like one of the explorers he learned about in social studies. Vasco da Gama. Once he found 2 unusual names on a program his parents brought home from a concert. Zubin Mehta and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Now those were names with pizzazz. Pizzazz means it's exciting. David Berenstein might have gone along forever just being another David if it had not been for the book report that his teacher assigned. I will give extra credit for fat books, Mrs. B told the class. She didn't realize that all of her students would try to outdo one another. That afternoon, when the 3rd grade went to the school library, everyone tried to find the fattest book. Melanie found a book with 80 pages. Sam found a book with 97 pages. Jeffrey found a book with 119 pages. David K. and David S. each took a copy of the same book. It had 145 pages. None of the books were long enough for David Berenstein. He looked at a few that had over 100 pages. He found one that had 214 pages, but he wanted a book that had more pages than the total of all the pages in all the books in his classmates were reading. He wanted to be the best student in the class, even in the entire school. That afternoon, he asked his mother what the fattest book was. Mrs. Berenstein thought for a minute. I guess that would have to be the Manhattan Telephone Book, she said. David Berenstein rushed to get the phone book. He lifted it up and opened it to the last page. When he saw that it had over 1,578 pages, he was delighted. He knew that no student in the history of PS 35 had ever read such a fat book. Just think how much extra credit he would get. David took the book and began to read name after name after name. After turning through all the A pages, he skipped to the name Berenstein. He found the listing for his father, Robert Berenstein. There were 15 of them. Then he counted the number of David Berensteins in the telephone book. There were 17. There was also a woman named Davida and a man named Davis. But he didn't count them. Right at that moment, David Berenstein decided 2 things. He would change his name and he would find another book to read. The next day, David went back to the school library. He asked the librarian to help him pick out a very fat book. But it must be very exciting too, he told her. I know just the thing for you, said the librarian. She handed David a thick book with a bright red cover. It was the Arabian Nights. It had only 337 pages, but it looked a lot more interesting than the phone book. Have any of you ever looked inside a phone book before? You should do that if you have one at your house. I don't think that'd be a very good book to read for a book report. I think it'd be kind of boring. David checked the book out of the library and spent the entire evening reading it. When he showed the book to his teacher the next day, she was very pleased. That is a good book, she said. David, you have made a fine choice. It was at that moment that David Berenstein announced his new name. He had found it in the library book. From now on, David said, I want to be called Alibaba Berenstein. Mrs. B was surprised. David's parents were even more surprised. David is a beautiful name, said his mother. It was my grandfather's name. You just can't go around changing your name when you feel like it, his father said. How will I ever know who I'm talking to? You'll know it's still me, Ali Baba told his parents. Mr. and Mrs. Berenstein finally agreed, although both of them frequently forgot and called their son David. So now, in Mrs. B's class, there were 3 Davids and 1 Ali Baba. Ali Baba Berenstein was very happy. He was sure that a boy with an exciting name would have truly exciting adventures. Only time would tell. All right, so that is the end of chapter 1. So, just gonna refresh your memory. Why did he choose the telephone directory for his book report? And then why did he change his mind? Why did David change his name? Why was David happy with the next book selection? So with the Arabian Nights book, why was he happy with it? And how did his parents react to his name change? Did they like it? Did they not like it? You tell me about it. All right, go ahead, finish these words up here, or filling in the blank with the A words, and then pick only 2 and answer on the back in nice complete sentences. We'll see you tomorrow, boys and girls.